All right. So today we have another episode of Petty and Profound, and we are discussing Morgan's second pick. I'm Caitlin, by the way. And Morgan picked what? What are we talking about today?
Interstellar.
Yes, released in 2014. Do we want to? I'll do a quick
Yes.
description, or yes, a paragraph summary. Interstellar follows Joseph Cooper, a former NASA pilot who joins a secret mission to find a new habitable planet as Earth faces environmental collapse. Leaving behind his children, Murphy and Tom, he travels through a wormhole near Saturn with scientists including Dr. Amelia Brand. They explore distant planets facing the dangers of time dilation, betrayal by Dr. Mann, and the pull of a black hole called Gargantua. Meanwhile, Murphy, the daughter, grows up to become a physicist and solves the equation to save humanity using quantum data her father transmits from inside the black hole. The film ends with an emotional reunion between Joseph and an elderly Murphy aboard Cooper Station before he sets out to find Brand on a distant world. I don't, we've had better summaries before. This is just one I had generated by lovely AI. I don't feel like it captures it that well, but it's hard to summarize like a 2 hour and 40-minute movie in a paragraph. So maybe that's a too tight of a limitation.
Yeah, I think you did a good job, but it's like you say, it's a complicated film. It's a long film. There's a lot of character development, and there's a lot of different plot lines and sort of interesting, sort of philosophical questions and maybe scientific questions posed as well.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it is difficult to encapsulate all at once.
Yeah. So, as we usually discuss, what made you want to choose this movie, Morgan?
Yeah, so this one's weird because the first few we've done, are sort of earlier ones we saw as kids. Um, but once we started this sort of project, of course, my kids wanted to have input, and they started suggesting all sorts of films they wanted us to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the ones they suggested that I hadn't seen yet. And I remember, when it came out in 2014, for whatever reason, I was like, it just, it seems too heavy. It seems, I wasn't really, in the mood for, how like sometimes, if there's a scary movie you have to be in for me, I have to be into science fiction or I have to be in a science fiction kind of mood to sort of, want to watch it. And especially with a 3 hour movie. It's like,
A lot. It's a big commitment.
yeah, it's a lot to bite off and chew. So I was like, let's pause it, and then I just never got back to it. Like I think I meant to get back to it, but my kids are like, yeah, a lot of my friends like it, or a lot of my friends say it's their favorite movie. So I was like, all
So
right, like that might,
interesting.
yeah, it might be like I viewed it as a good way to like catch up, and then also see a movie I hadn't seen.
Okay. Okay. Yep. I actually did see it in the theater, but I remembered very little about it. Again, a previous movie, Mr. Destiny, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. I can like quote lines from that, but I saw Interstellar and I was like, I know Matthew McConaughey's in it, and I know he had a redheaded daughter that was very smart and headstrong, and I knew it was like Dust Bowl, like
Right.
reboot, like that. And obviously, I knew it was a space movie, but that was pretty much all I remembered from it. And so, like when I rewatched it last week, I was like, it all came back. I was like, all right, I forgot that it was so long. I had
Well,
to watch a few segments.
it has a common actor with the first movie we watched together, Mr. Destiny, the bartender,
Oh,
Michael
you're right.
Professor
Kane, Michael
Brand.
Kane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Professor Brand is Mike the bartender, aka Mr. Destiny.
I will say, just jumping ahead to that character, like, I don't know what the year was when Matthew McConaughey left Earth, but like, I don't feel like they were really true to like life about like aging Michael Caine, because Michael Caine looked pretty old when
Right.
like
They just put him in a wheelchair.
yeah,
They
but
didn't actually age him.
he didn't age a
Right.
day. It's like he was 68, 70 when he went up, and then 25 years later looked exactly the same but in a wheelchair. I was like,
Yeah.
come on, come on. You could do some effects. You gotta work with me here. Come on. So I will say another actor that I didn't even think about when I watched it in 2014 for good reason was the son, Tom, is Timothy Chalamet. Before he had, his big, all these Oscar nods, before he
Right.
was a big actor, he was obviously just a teenager in that film. But I
I
was like, who knew? Who
I
knew?
think you mean young Tom because older
Yes.
Tom is obviously Casey Affleck.
That's another thing. So, just getting into it, one, totally forgot that Casey Affleck was in this movie, but I also forgot that what's his name? Matt Damon is in the
Oh
movie.
yeah.
And I'm
Sure.
like, can
Dr.
Matt Damon,
Matt.
can Affleck be in a movie and not have Matt Damon in
No.
it? Like,
No, it's
if
not
I were
allowed.
to, if I had more time to waste on this, and I was thinking about this like on the treadmill the other day, I'm like, I need to do a Venn diagram
Oh, for
of like
sure.
the
Well, you could use
Affleck movie
AI for
group.
that. How many movies,
Yes,
have an Affleck and Matt Damon been in? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I also have another like weird Easter egg that popped into my head about Casey Affleck. I can't remember. I should have looked up the name of the movie, but it's a weird independent movie that Casey Affleck was in. I don't know, 5, 10 years ago, but it has a bizarre commonality with this movie. So in this movie, I need to look it up, but it's it's hard to describe. He's in this house and there's like a ghost and he's
Oh,
like haunted by it. But
okay.
he ends up dying
Yeah.
but it's like the theory of the movie, so he dies in a car wreck at like
Sure.
30 or something, and he's literally stuck in the same plot as a soul for like the rest of the
Yeah,
history of the
forever.
earth.
Yeah.
And then it starts over. And so he sees like pioneers, and
Uh,
he sees like the building of civilization, and then the building of that neighborhood. And his soul stays there for the
I,
entire cycle of time till he sees himself move back. And it turns out he's the ghost haunting him in the house.
ah,
And so it's literally what happens in Interstellar because Matthew
yeah,
McConaughey is his own ghost, or
yeah.
is the ghost for his child. And so in that Casey Affleck movie, he's his own ghost. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on now. What
Come
are
on,
the
how many
odds?
times has someone been their own ghost? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. And so I have to look up that movie. But it's also weird because he's not like a CGI ghost. He's literally a guy with a sheet. It's just a sheet with like eye holes. It's
Right.
like deliberately low tech.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting very much off
Base.
track here. The budget for Interstellar was approximately 165 million.
Pretty
Do you,
big.
yeah, do you want to guess what the worldwide box office revenue was?
400.
No, 731.
Pretty
So
solid.
yeah, yeah. Rotten Tomatoes, interestingly, critics gave it a 73%, whereas
Harsh.
audiences gave it 86%.
Yeah, I'm with the audiences on this one. I think it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And it was directed by Christopher Nolan. So, it was a critical and commercial success, praised for its ambition, visuals, and emotional depth. So, I have some trivia for later, but I'd like to hear some of your thoughts.
I I like it because there's a lot of science. They try to bring in a lot of science, a lot of physics, a lot of math, and even very early in the film, like throughout, it's like a STEM film, and
Yeah.
I like that. I feel like not enough movies are like, yeah, the math and science heroes. Let's. I like that. I like that. I also like it because there aren't even for movies that go into outer space. Like let's talk about television shows, Star Trek or things like. They don't ever actually ever talk about astronomy. They don't ever talk
Mhm.
about what is a black hole like? What are sort of like the ramifications of that? This movie really gets into the time dilation, the theory of relativity. It's pretty smart. I'm not saying it does it all correctly, nor did I check my notes every time they said something.
Mm-hmm.
But like I like it that like you have to think about it a little bit. It's not just a complete your brain rinse. You don't completely detach when you're watching it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, thinking about that whole, it's a PSA for the importance of STEM. Even in the beginning of the movie, it basically sets the stage that the world is in decline.
Yeah,
The ground, the soil can't sustain farming practices. It can't produce food to keep populations going. It's basically a huge dust bowl.
yeah,
And there's this pivotal scene. Matthew McConaughey, he's a single father of two children, as I mentioned. Murphy, a girl, and Tom, a boy who's older. And he goes to the children's school basically just to kind of get a progress report of how they're doing. And of course, Cooper, the main character, Matthew McConaughey, he's a former NASA guy, so obviously really into science and STEM. And he's talking to the principal and the teacher about like the prospects for his kids as far as education and the trajectory of what careers they might have. And it's, of course, Matthew McConaughey, he's really interested in sending his children to university and maybe he can be an engineer. What can my son do? And it's interesting because the teachers are like, well, you have to be realistic, sir, because everyone has to be a farmer now. Like the days of being a scientist are over. We need farmers. We need people making food, and these are practical times. And they basically said you have to be elite of the elite, like top 1%, in order to actually go to university. It's kind of a frivolous thing in the world that he's living in. And so Tom is just basically put on the track to be a farmer, and Tom's okay with that. Whereas Murphy, the daughter, is a little bit younger, but she's obviously precocious and very into science, knows Morse code, or at least can interpret Morse code. So, you know, uh, just the seedlings for like what her future science interest might be. Yeah, but he fights it. And it's also interesting to talk about how the moon landing, they're like, oh, yeah, that was just a plot to bankrupt the Soviet Union. So, like you
we
mentioned, conspiracy theories.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they say that. So the way it was presented was they said Matthew McConaughey's daughter was getting in fights because she was reading Matthew McConaughey's old textbooks
Textbooks.
that describe the Apollo moon landings as fact. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, the textbooks in the movie had all been changed, after the fact and said, "Oh, well, that never happened. It was just a propaganda stunt." And obviously, going to the moon's preposterous. Everyone should become farmers. So it was definitely that was the first time in the movie where there was sort of like a record scratch, where you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, oh, this isn't just like an ordinary dust bowl. Like this is something a little bit different.
They didn't really get into it, but I wonder why global wide dust bowl would lead to the rewriting of space history, and other scientific facts, right? Like obviously the internet is rife with conspiracy theories about space, and it's pre-existing. Those conspiracy theories pre-exist the internet for sure, but I want to know why they kind of leaned into that narrative. Why do you think so?
Well, I think two things. One, quick tangent. I want to say there was a recent Netflix movie, and the whole premise of the movie is it was staged, but it was sort of like a comedy. It
Mm.
was sort of, I can't remember the actors and actresses in it, but like it was sort of like, of course it was fake, or maybe it was just in case it doesn't work. We're still going to have like the backup actors to show it work because we're not going to sort of accept failure as an option.
Mm.
Um, I think it's almost like a reverse morale thing. The original space race was, I think, to instill morale and obviously compete for, global supremacy and kind of show we're the best, rah rah rah, something for people to rally behind. But I think when times are tough, I think it can be seen as sort of frivolous or a waste. And again, like if they're telling 99% of the population you need to
Be
become a
farmers.
farmer and you
You
need to,
can't idealize space.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you have to sort of have everything fit a narrative. So I think it's more
Yeah.
about narrative cohesion.
Sure, sure. And kind of like sour grapes. Like, yeah, focus on the here and now.
Yeah.
That, like you said, frivolous. That makes sense. You had some other good questions that you wanted to talk about in our chat today. I'm going to pull them up. Let me see. Took a picture of it.
But while you're digging that up, I'll start with one.
Okay.
Um, I I didn't catch this the first time I was watching the movie, but I caught it the second time.
Okay.
When you're watching the second time through, I think it's interesting that early on in the movie, I think they're actually on the way to the school and they get a flat tire,
Mm.
and he's like, you gotta get out there and fix the flat tire. He's like, why? Why do I have to? And he's like, because I'm not always gonna be here.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
A little
but
nod.
it's interesting because like that's something like one, it's something that parents say to their kids all the time, like, hey, you need to develop self sufficiency.
Mhm.
But like they don't usually mean it in a literal way, like, hey, I'm gonna be in space for the next 100 years. Like you really do need to take care of
Mhm.
yourself because
Yeah, a little bit of foreshadowing.
yeah, it's a little bit of foreshadowing, but also I wonder whether it also shows a certain amount of premeditation in the sense that, like, Matthew McConaughey, he's dying to get out of there. If he does not feel comfortable as a farmer. He does not feel comfortable, in the small town atmosphere. And like anytime someone says, "Hey, you need to settle down, you need to get remarried," he's very against it. So like,
Yeah.
even though the opportunity hasn't arisen yet, he's ready. Yeah, I mean he's
Mhm.
mentally ready to get out of there if the opportunity is big enough, at least.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good point. And it's funny because obviously, I watched the movie for the second time, but I didn't even think about that the first time I watched it. But rewatching it, you're like, oh, okay, he already has one foot out the door. Yeah, he never got fully in the door.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. John Lithgow is also in the movie. He plays the grandfather. I feel like his entire role in the movie is just to talk about back in my day.
Yeah.
And back in my day, we built things. We were into science. Yeah.
I feel like it's also maybe his secondary function is to be a soft guilt trip, in the sense that, like, your kids need you, you need to be around, because he was the one that, like, hey, maybe you should meet that new teacher, maybe it's your
She's
job to help
single.
yeah, you should help repopulate the world. And it's interesting because, like, he does it gently, and honestly, the grandfather character does more than his fair share. I mean, he basically raises the kids from then on once Matthew McConaughey gets in the NASA space shuttle. So it's an interesting relationship, and I always wonder whether he's trying to you know do right by the kids, do right by Matthew McConaughey, or a combination of both. I think it's a combination. I think he seems pretty earnest,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's got to be tough because being a single parent, that's got to be tough, and it's also tough if you're like if you're a NASA pilot, you kind of don't fit in. He kind
Mm-hmm.
of doesn't fit in, in this
New
world.
world. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
interesting. You talk about how it seems like he's kind of in denial about this new world. Like he still has his old books. He really identifies with his old identity. He clearly hasn't gotten over his wife, which has passed away because he's still wearing his wedding ring.
right. And he
And
still
so,
talks about her, even at the
yes,
parent teacher conference. Like, hey,
yes.
maybe we do need more engineers because there weren't enough MRI machines when my wife got sick. So
Yeah. Well, he said the cyst in my wife's brain. And it's like, well, then how do you know that was there if, you didn't
I
have
think he
access to
said
MRIs?
he said after the fact. He said they basically diagnosed her after she died. So like almost like a post mortem,
Like an
which
autopsy?
yeah, yeah, which unfortunately, like, 100, 200 years ago, that's also how they used to diagnose things. Like
Mhm.
after the fact, there was no while you're still alive diagnosis if it wasn't visible.
One thing just about the setting of the house, like I totally understand just for the look and feel of a farmhouse. It looks super traditional. It looks like a farmhouse that would have been built over 100 years ago. But it seems so impractical. I'm watching this, so much dust, like dust covering everything. Why would you have a house like that? Like you could see through the slats. It's just I understand it's like dramatic and creaky, and it speaks to that world, but like no, you need like a mud house. You need, or
Yeah.
like be in the ground. And if you're so into science and health, why are you letting your kids breathe in all that dust all the time? Like that just seemed really inconsistent. Like if you're into STEM and
Yeah.
science and you have N95 masks in the car, like
Right.
why are you having to live in that like health hazard of a house?
So I completely agree. It's one of my pet peeves because on the one hand, he's like taking control of drones with his computer, and he's
Yes.
redoing circuit controls for multi-million-dollar farming equipment.
Combine. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like suddenly they can't afford a window, or even
Yes.
not a window. Like you can't just have wood that fits next to each
Yes.
other because you're right. Like it's like really in a dust bowl you can't. I mean, like
Yeah.
the obvious move is put up something sturdy, put some
Yeah.
wood all over the windows, and then put towels underneath the door. Like, do what you got to do. Like, it
Yeah.
seemed like on the one hand they're balancing super high tech with just like lack of common sense. I mean,
Yes.
obviously they were doing it for dramatic effect
They
because
were.
they wanted to show, oh, the dirt. We had to put the bowls upside down or they'd get dirt. I'm like, no one does that. No one's
Yeah.
ever done that. You close the doors, you close the
Yeah.
windows,
Get some
and
filters.
you don't take the dishes out of the cupboard. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons they have a
Yeah.
cupboard.
Don't leave the window open. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, come on, come on.
yeah,
And so I was thinking, and of course, later on, when you see the next generation, you see Tom's kid, he has the really bad cough. And
yeah,
Jesse, who you only see as an infant, clearly died of probably some pulmonary
right,
issue. But I'm thinking, like, why are people not coughing here? Like, you see all these horrible like lung diseases crop up in
right.
high pollution countries right now.
And
So
not
it
only
seemed
that,
really unrealistic.
like like wear a mask. Like I'm pretty sure if there's a dust storm or like any other kind of like a sandstorm, you put a scarf over your head, you put an N95 over your face. Like, what sense does it make? But like, oh, there's dirt everywhere. We're just gonna go without scarves, without like.
Yeah.
I mean, this is supposed to be the future too, so
Yeah.
it's not like. And even then, like people know you cover your face if you can't breathe.
Yeah. Well, they did it when that huge dust bowl came. They had like
Yeah,
N95. I'm like, oh, so it has to be that bad to
right.
cover your mouth. So yeah, that seemed really inconsistent to me. Yeah. And again, how can you be advocating? I want them to go to college. They're really bright, but suck in that dust, kids. So
Yeah. Yeah, it
yeah,
didn't make any sense.
yeah, totally agree. All right. What were your other? I have the questions.
All right.
Let me pull them up. Okay. Your first question was, what's the main theme of the movie?
Yeah. I have it. You go first.
Okay. I feel like it really, obviously, the core relationship of the movie is between Matthew McConaughey and his daughter, Murph. And I think the theme of the movie is the transcendence of love. And, he talks about it, he kind of waxes philosophical with Anne Hathaway when they're aboard the spaceship and talking about how love transcends dimension, time, space. And, like, that's literally, like, the narrative arc of the movie where Matthew McConaughey, just for his, like, sheer love of his child, he's in this wormhole and he can communicate with her because they have that strong connection and she'll know that it's him sending that message. And so, galaxies away or whatever, they can still be in contact. And it's like this pull, this connection of love between the two of them. I feel like that's the theme of the movie.
I feel like there's two themes. One is the one you just said, love, the transcendence of love. I think there's a second theme, which is, humans can survive anything, but two things are necessary. One is, um, you know, persistence slash innovation, But another one is luck. I think
Mm.
there's like, because Matthew McConaughey, there's all sorts of things they say throughout the movie about, okay, humans were born on Earth, but we weren't meant to die here, um, and it also in terms of how they get this. Like they start off the meeting with NASA, and they're like, yeah, well, yeah, it'd be great to go to other planets, but they're not close enough. There's no planets close enough. And they're like, yeah, but actually, there's a wormhole. That not only that someone put there. Some extraterrestrial or something put there.
The
So
future
like,
people that
they're yeah,
understand five dimensions.
yeah, the five
It's a
dimensional
little
people.
BS. It's a little
It
Deus
is,
Ex
but
Machina, if you ask me.
it is, it is. But the thing is, like, the movie doesn't make sense, unless there's that luck. Like the everything, nothing in the plot line moves forward without this sort of interventionist wormhole. Because like otherwise they wouldn't have been able to send the 12 probes. They wouldn't even be able to like go to these other planets. They wouldn't even have access to the black hole.
Mm.
So in order to have any of that, you need to have the wormhole. So it's like even with the innovation of NASA and technology and all the books in the world, you still need luck.
Mm.
And also, like I think that second theme is repeated on a lot of these planets where, okay, you have a lot of these planets. Well, first planet has water, but it also has 1,000-foot waves, like
Yeah, a
that's
tsunami.
not, yeah, so a tsunami, and, another one's like, okay, well, this one technically has some of the characteristics to live there, but it's ice cold, it has frozen clouds,
Mhm.
basically like, it's really, there really is a lot about luck. And when they're going up in space the first time, Matthew McConaughey's like, Earth's pretty unique. I don't know if we're ever going to find anything exactly like it. And I think that's part of luck too.
Sure, sure. I think one thing, I think one of my favorite themes or concepts explored by the movie, or at least flirted with, again, is the relativity of time, right? And I love that they explore the dilation of time. Like, I think that's one of the most thought provoking elements of time. How, when they talk about that one gargantua or whatever, like an hour on this planet equals 7 years on Earth. And that kind of just blows my mind. And it's completely true. Like, that's how space works. And I remember reading this book. It was way above my head, but it was like during the pandemic, and I just got it from the library. It was just talking about time. And I remember reading one thing that I thought was fascinating is that you age faster at higher altitudes, even on the earth. Like, you age faster on mountaintops in Colorado than you do at like sea level in Florida. And they talk about like bananas. If you have a banana and you have it in Florida, it will not ripen as quickly at sea level versus on top of a mountain. Like, blows my mind. And so, like, obviously those are just like, fractions of a day's difference, but like just the fact that that exists on Earth, that it's even relative, that kind of it's just really fascinating to me. And of course, human beings experience time relativity on their own. When you're young, a summer vacation feels like it lasts forever, but that same amount of time as an adult goes by in a snap. So just and just aging, you're like, oh, that week went by in a flash. But I remember as a kid, that same week would feel like it took forever. And so I think about the bananas, and I think about just aging and how time feels different as you age. And of course, these planets, they explore that in much more macroscopic detail. But it's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Have you ever read any science fiction books that get into the time dilation stuff
I'm
for like
not a science.
characters?
Just like you don't have to get in your mood for your sci-fi movies. I don't read science fiction. Period. So
I want to say the movie and the book. I think the book Ender's Game, and it's like the series gets into it. I feel like Ender keeps kind of going like to different parts of the galaxy, and every time he makes a jump, his family basically ages a generation. So that by the time he gets to the third or fourth planet, but like communication still, like at least in the books, communication still happens almost instantaneously. So he's talking. His older brother is now, you know, instead of 2 years older than them, is 60 years older than them or 70 years older than them, and it's interesting because like you see that one person has sort of lived their whole life while you're making a gas run. You're
Mm.
like, that's just weird, and they do that here too.
One question that I meant to look up and I didn't, but it's like, if you had to guess, how many years did Matthew McConaughey age? Like, if it was in Earth years, right?
Yeah,
How much did he actually age on his space flight? How long was it?
yeah. I feel like I did the math at some point because he left his daughter when she was what, age 10, age 13, something like
Thereabouts.
that. And then at the end she just came out of cryo sleep and she was 127 years old, right?
Uh,
Because I think
no,
she
he was 127. She was in cryo sleep just for 2 years, I think, to travel and visit him. Or like they
okay.
found him.
I
So I don't
remember
think
hearing.
she was that old. I
Okay,
don't
well, if he was 127, that would make her what, 97?
Something like that, yeah.
But part of it too is it's difficult because, I thought what they were inferring at the end. I must have mixed it up, but I thought they were inferring because she solved the quantum whatever that then they had longer lifespan. That instead of just
Mm.
living to like 80 or 90, it's possible maybe now people are living longer. So I must have misunderstood that.
Mm.
But
But I want to know like how, because again he's up there and of course
I
your body is aging, and I
yeah,
understand like with the gravity, like it's literally not aging at the same, but I'm like, just for my own purposes, just for
I
me to
think
track it,
he's.
was he up there 2 years, 3 years,
I mean,
like?
in terms of Earth time, I think he had to have been up there, uh, 90 to 95 years in Earth time.
At Earth time, but I meant
In Earth
his
time, but the problem
lived
is
experience.
the problem with figuring out how long he's up there is he spends a lot of it in like that hyper sleep, like when they're going from Earth to
Hmm.
Mars and then Mars to
Yeah.
Saturn. Like because the Mars to Saturn, I don't know how long that takes, or when they wake him up on
Yeah.
the other side. So I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit of a black box.
Yeah, like how many breaths did that dude take conscious? How many days was he conscious? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of mind bending to think about.
they
But
didn't age him much. You
no, he
know,
didn't he had the Michael Caine treatment.
yeah,
He didn't get aged at all. And neither did Anne Hathaway. The only one that aged was that one guy who stayed
Romilly,
behind. Huh?
Romilly.
Yeah, Romilly. And of course he had the white
So
beard.
yeah,
Or
the
little uh black and or salt and
salt
pepper
and pepper.
beard. Yeah, he said he didn't want to sleep his life away.
He said he slept for some of it, but he didn't want to stay asleep. So he
Yes.
was up there, Romilly, while they were doing their mission down on the water planet. He was up there
27
for
years.
yeah,
So that was like equivalent to like what? 3.5 hours down there? Because they said it was like 1 hour is 7 years.
7 years.
Or
Yeah,
thereabouts. Yeah. Okay. Next question. What character is the most fun to watch the second time you watch the movie? I'll let you answer this one first.
I love the Matt Damon character the second
Yeah.
time. Like
Really?
when I watched it the first time, I couldn't stand the guy because obviously
Yes.
he's a total creep.
Total jerk.
I don't like the character at all. But the second time I watched it, I was almost like it's almost like an Alfred Hitchcock. It's almost like you're watching Psycho, like because you're in on the joke. This like if when you watch it the second time, you're like, this guy can't be trusted. Like, oh no, don't go that way. He's leading you down like it's a
Hmm.
trap. Don't fall for it. But like, he really gets into sort of like the part I thought was so creepy. He's walking, like Matthew McConaughey, to what he thinks is going to be like, his demise. He's like, oh, you're a father, like the survival instinct of a father. They always say, right before you die, like you see the image of your kids and then you push through. And then like he like stabs the guy in the back, and he's like, "Do you see your kids?" It's like, what
Yeah.
is wrong with you? And
He's
like,
like, I'm here, just listen to my voice, because that would be a comfort while you're suffocating.
and and there's all sorts of little hints of like, like they're like, "Oh, do you want us to fix your robot?" He's like, "No, no, no, don't fix that robot." Like, and then your second time you watch it, like, and even when like when Matt Damon first awakens, the first thing he does is just cry. He just starts bawling, and the first time you watch it, you're like, "Oh, it's a very emotional moment." The second time you watch it, you're like, oh, he knows he's done a terrible thing, and he knows that terrible thing he's lured them, to his trap, and like he feels
Mm-hmm.
some amount of guilt about it, and even after he's betrayed Matthew McConaughey,
I don't
he
think he
says,
feels guilt. I
"No,"
don't.
he says, "You can't judge me." It's like,
Yeah.
really? You just tried to kill. Like, if he can't
Yeah.
judge you
You
now, when
can
can he
judge. I
judge you?
can and I will. Yeah. I
Yeah,
gotta say, Matt Damon, he's played the heel or he's played the bad guy in enough movies, but he's always the same bad guy. He relishes being a bad guy, and he's an a-hole about it. Like some people
yeah,
play like the gruff, like gritty bad guy. Not Matt Damon. He plays like a sneak. He likes to
yeah.
play
He's
the
always a
sneaky.
snake.
Like he was in School Ties. I don't know if you remember him
I
in that movie.
remember.
He's like, you'll always be,
Right,
less
right.
than. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
talking to Brendan Fraser, and then like Talented Mr. Ripley. He plays like sleazeballs really
Yeah.
well. Like that's his bad guy. That's him as a bad guy. And I'm like, oh, he's that guy again. But it was funny because I was like Matthew McConaughey or Matt Damon, and of course we have where's the Affleck? How
Yeah.
long until we see an Affleck?
And
So,
I feel like the first time you watch it, you're so appalled, you can't enjoy it. And like, the second time you watch it, he's not going to win. Like,
mm,
it's all for naught. It's all in vain. So
mm,
like you can kind of be like, well, since I know the bad guy's not going to win, I can kind of be like, he's really embracing that villain. He's really,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One thing, it makes no sense. Like, like how would that character think he'd get away with it? Because like he has to do some crazy level of sabotage. Like he literally blew up his station, killing that one guy. What's his name again? I can't remember. Uh,
Romilly.
Romilly blows him up. Like, if you're gonna be that bad, just kill everyone when they get down
You're
there and just take the ship. Because no one's ever gonna know. Why go to like such elaborate like planning and explosives? Like, if you're gonna
here's
be a vile bad guy, be an efficient bad guy. But like all the lies, it just doesn't make
here's
sense. And he had nothing but years to think about it.
the thing
So
I don't understand is I don't know what he gains by not just saying like, "Hey, the data is all bad,"
yeah,
like
I don't know
like
why.
you don't need to go to the surface, whatever, but the data's all bad.
Mm-hmm.
But instead it's like he can't. He just keeps doubling down and tripling
Mm-hmm.
down and quadrupling down, and I don't even know what his plan is. Like,
Yes, that's
what's
what I'm thinking. What's
like
your plan?
yeah, because like even if you get back to this space shuttle by your like, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go?
Yes, back to the dying Earth. It
Yeah,
makes no sense. It makes no sense. So
yeah.
yeah, I like how Matthew McConaughey is like coward. Like you couldn't just die here like a normal person would, like a
Well,
hero would.
I do think it's important to note that like when NASA was making the sort of like, okay, you're gonna have these 12 explorers, they're all gonna go different places, and if they land on a bad planet, well, that's just the
Have
luck of the
luck.
draw. But they don't ever think about the incentive structure. Like these are clearly intelligent people, and like when Matthew Damon when Matt Damon landed, and he landed on a dud planet, he then has an incentive to
Luck.
feed bad data so they come and rescue him, if nothing else, at least for a rescue. So it's like I think one of the fundamental flaws in the NASA planning, and the McConaughey character is pretty good about this. It's like, hey, you eggheads, like thought of everything except how to survive or how to be realistic or how not to
Mm-hmm.
die on some of these planets.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he is more realistic about some of the incentive structures. Because yeah, like most of these scientists aren't just going to be like, well, it's been real, like cash in my chips. I guess I got a bad planet.
Guess
Some
I
of them are
gotta
gonna.
take my cyanide pill now.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's super weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. So next question is, what's the most inspiring scene?
You answer first. You answer first.
You know, I didn't think many of the scenes were inspiring. I think like pivotal or like touching would be when he gets back. So he goes to Gargantua and they have the problems and he has to stay down there like 3 hours and he realizes that's like, oh my gosh, that's almost 3 decades gone in a flash. That's devastating for him. And he gets back onto the ship and he watches 27 years of his kids' lives, mostly Casey Affleck, just go by as if he's like catching up on a TV show. And like just the how much he lost or missed out on, like again, that their lives are passing by in an instant. And like so that was just like really just a lot of gravity to those scenes. And I felt like maybe not inspiring, but it speaks to like how much he gave up by leaving it behind. And it was just very touching and kind of sad and a little pitiful in my mind. So inspiring isn't the right word, but like that is one of the most moving scenes for me.
I think I'll go with two different scenes. I really like in the beginning when like he sees that drone, which is sort of lost its mind, kind of, but he's able to like take control of it with his computer and then use it as like a resource. Like I feel like that's sort of like, hey, we're gonna find a way. I
That's the
like
more
that
foreboding or not foreboding, but
yeah,
foreshadowing.
foreshadowing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it because it's like, look, we might be in dire straits, but like we can still do cool stuff. We can accomplish cool things. We can repurpose. We can recycle. We can rebuild. I like that, and I also like the end, like the last scene where it's like, it's hokey, but it's like he's you said 127 years old, but he's not ready to give up yet. He's like, yeah, hey, I'm gonna jailbreak and take one of these cruisers and keep exploring and go try to find my crewmate. Um, and I think both of those are sort of like we're not giving up, and I like that.
Yeah, it's good. Let's see. The next one is who has to fake it the most? I wasn't sure what you meant by that. Fake it.
Yeah. So, I think so. I wanted to explore a little bit, in terms of about halfway, maybe three-quarters of the way through the movie, Matthew McConaughey's daughter, Murph, she basically confronts, well, first off, Professor Brand dies, and on his deathbed, he basically says it's all garbage. Like, my equations are all garbage. Plan A, which was to sort of rescue all the people on Earth, that was never possible. Like, the real goal was to like start a new settlement and leave everyone on Earth forever. And of course, since she's on Earth, she finds that pretty upsetting, and she's been working with this guy for decades.
And he took her
Um,
dad.
yeah, and she wants to know, one, did Anne Hathaway, did she know, and did Matthew McConaughey know? Like, did you abandon us on purpose? Did you know that this was an abandonment mission instead of a rescue mission? And I think, and because of that, you find out that at least the Professor Brand, uh, the Michael Caine character, that he's been lying the whole movie. He's been faking it the whole movie. He's been pretending. He was pretending to Matthew McConaughey, hey, we're gonna send you up, and like he was pretending the whole movie, and and then you sort of wonder, like, okay, well, who else is pretending? I think the Casey Affleck character,
Mm.
Matthew McConaughey's son, like for the first, you know, half of the movie, he's pretending to be like, it's okay, like, I'll take care of the farm, I'll take care of everything, it's fine. But then he decides he's not pretending anymore. He's like, all right, you're dead to me, and like, and he's like, I gotta let you go. Um, and similarly, like, even the Murph character, for half of the movie, she's pretending she hates her dad. She absolutely hates her dad. And you don't know if she hates him because she actually hates him, or if she hates him because she misses him. And even Matthew McConaughey, it's like, okay, well, are you sort of like, are you pretending? Are you pretending that you're the caring father, and you're really just like an explorer? You like to explore, but you're saddled with some kids, but you really would rather. Or are you both? Like, are you both a caring father, but also like, 'cause, and he has this tension in terms of, okay, well, he wants to be a good dad, but if you think the earth is dying, you can't be a good dad and stay there, because if you stay there, then presumably the earth is going to
Doom.
die. So it's like he's really conflicted, but I don't know. I don't know if he's pretending or if he's 100% genuine, but he just has one foot in both doors, or one foot. Like, I think there's a lot, and I guess that's one of the reasons I like it. Or the Anne Hathaway character. She's allegedly in love with Wolf Edmonds, but she clearly has something, some sort of spark with Matthew McConaughey, and
You
it's
think
like,
so?
what?
You think so?
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
because the thing is, she says, she knows the guy's dead, but like, definitely in terms of like, there's definitely some flirting. It's pretty overt,
mm.
at least to me. Because like, it's like, at the end, he doesn't go just because she's a crewmate, and just because he's an explorer. It's also like a little bit of a love story, right?
Sure.
So like that element, just to tie it up nicely.
Yeah, I feel like they just needed to have a beautiful woman there because there needs to be something, there needs to be some other tension, some other sliver of hope, something else that keeps him going. Um, but yeah, one thing that's interesting about Matthew McConaughey's character is he's never fully happy wherever he is. So like when he's on Earth, he doesn't feel like he fits, right? And then he obviously has some tension about being a dad. Like you said, he's an explorer and he misses that life, but he wants to do right by his children. And then he goes to space reluctantly. But when he's in space, then he's just thinking about getting back to his kids. So when he's on Earth,
I
it's I want to get out of here. And then when
I
he's in space, I want to get back.
I would, one critique I'd have there is, I think he feels comfortable in a crisis.
Yeah.
Like, I think when they're stuck on, the Gargantua planet, the water planet, he's the only one that keeps his head. And anytime, like, oh no, we can't lock on, he's like, I got a solution for that. We can rotate it this. Like, I mean, I think he's at his best when everyone else is freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are people like that. I think there's some people that are, like,
Sure.
wartime generals. There's
Mm-hmm.
people that are really good in a crisis, but are kind of bad, in like the day to day. Like,
Yes. Okay. One of my favorite stories. It's Ulysses S. Grant. I was reading this Civil War book, and they were talking about how Ulysses S. Grant was just a total failure at everything he tried before the Civil War. And they joke like it was this professor who was being interviewed, and they said like he tried to have a store, got fired, or like he like lost his money, and then he worked, got fired. He had like maybe alcohol issues. He tried to
he
be a
did,
farmer,
yeah,
and they said failing as a farmer in the 1800s was like jumping off a cliff and failing to hit like the
yeah,
ground
yeah,
below. And so, but yeah, he was just really good as a general. Terrible, not very good as a president, by the way.
right,
But like ended up bankrupt and had to be like saved later
yeah,
on. But like it was like he was the perfect person for that moment. And like
yeah,
he turned like the Civil War around because it was drawn out for like 4 or 5
yeah.
years, and it wasn't going well for the Union for like the first 3 years. Because anyway, we won't go into that, but I love the fact about like just the right person in the right moment and it like being perfectly aligned. And I wonder how many people out there, like in a different time or circumstance, would have been a hero just because they have those unique characteristics. And like every generation probably has a unique mix of people, and some rise to the occasion for like the environment and their circumstances, and everyone else just kind of is just there
Yeah,
in case it arises. And so yeah, Matthew McConaughey is perfect for that moment. So he's like the Ulysses for this
yeah.
movie.
There's also like a timing requirement. I can't remember what book it was. It might have been a Malcolm Gladwell book, but it was basically
Mhm.
like, hey, if you look at all like like the tech billionaires or
Oh yeah, they talk about
and
Bill
it's like,
Gates. I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. They're all born within like 3 or 4 years of each other. So it's really not about,
Yes.
hey, you're a genius. It's,
Hmm.
hey, you happen to be a genius
In the
born
right
within this
place.
tight window because
Yes.
that's when all like the
Hmm.
opportunity was. And then
And
once you
like Bill
grab,
Gates happened to go to a school where they had some sort of special computer that like no
yeah,
one else had access to, or yeah.
yeah, but it just makes you realize. And again, this is
Luck.
a
Back to
this
luck.
back. Well, it's you still have to do the work, But like, and it's the old saying, like, what is luck? Luck is when
Hmm.
preparation meets opportunity. Because
Yeah.
you still have to do the preparation. But like some people like to say, well, I don't believe in luck or I make my own luck. Well, you still need preparation, you still need opportunity. And I like about this movie is it provides the opportunity and it also has the right people who have prepared for it.
Yeah, he
Um,
steps into it.
yeah.
I remember back in grad school, I was in like a brain and behavior class when I was getting my master's degree in psych. And we were talking about like ADHD and even like night owls and early birds. And like the professor was talking about how like there's just different people are built different ways because in different times in humanity, like you need to have early birds, right? Because they can, they're there for the farming and whatnot. But like it's really good to have night owls because you need people up in case like someone's
Right.
attacking your
Some
tribe. And
centuries.
so
Yeah.
yeah, there's just like this diversity in humanity for a very good reason because like at different points in time it's really valuable to have these different traits. And so again, timing, and if you fit the moment, then that's your time to shine. And sometimes I'm wondering like, can I shine in this generation, or am I just one of the many specks of sand? Like where what do you need to shine in this day and age, and like how do you stand out, and can you stand out? So I wonder, I'm
I
like, am I Ulysses without the Civil War, or like where?
I
Yeah.
I always feel like I was born at the right time, just
Hmm.
because of
Health issues,
our various
just the
health issues, which,
the nick of
without
time.
going into any of the details, the therapies really didn't exist until the early 80s when we were born. So it's like
Hmm.
if you happen to be born with a health issue, coincidentally at the same time those therapies are emerging, that's kind of a good alignment.
Hmm.
Similarly, I'm sure there were millions, if not billions, of people in the past where it's like, hey, they had something, but they were born at the wrong time. They were never, they never were given that opportunity just because, the medicine didn't exist or the therapy didn't exist or the
Hmm.
knowledge wasn't, widespread or, they just didn't have the resources. So
Yeah,
yeah,
bad luck.
yeah, well, it's just crazy, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about. And, even in the movie where it's like, you get to be a farmer, you get to be a farmer, you get
Hmm.
like, I'm sure there's plenty of civil, like, when you look at, civilization, there weren't that many careers for thousands of years, hunter,
Hmm.
gatherer,
Hmm.
farmer, most societies were agrarian or military based. And it's like, okay, well, what are you going to be? Are you going to be a soldier? Are you gonna be, like, there aren't that many there's maybe like 10 choices or less.
And honestly, like careers are relatively recent, like in human
Yeah,
history. Before it was just like if you were farming, you farmed to provide for your family, or you had like a small group of people, and but there wasn't a job. It was just like I need to
right.
eat and have enough warmth and hunt, and it was pretty basic. And I think farming changed everything. Yeah. Then once you could like sustain yourself and not have to worry about how you're going to feed yourself, you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my time? So pretty okay. So you want some trivia?
Yeah,
Do you have any trivia?
I do, but mostly I think I'm just gonna wait for you to ask and then for me to have a decently good answer.
Well, okay. I just have a list. So you mentioned how you liked that this movie is very scientific or science focused, and so first thing I have is that scientific accuracy for the movie was backed by a physicist. So the film had a scientific advisor, and he was a renowned theoretical physicist, Kip Thorne. And he helped ensure the accuracy of the depictions of wormholes, black holes, and relativity. And his collaboration was so in depth that he later co authored a companion book and won the 2017 Nobel Prize in Physics for related work on gravitational waves.
That's pretty awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
knew he was a consultant to help, but I didn't know about the book and I didn't know about the Nobel Prize because I read somewhere that each second in the movie they showed of the black holes took like 100 hours of rendering,
Yes.
and that they
Yes.
used him as a consultant just to make sure it was accurate.
And I'm sure you remember, like it was a year or two ago, they had the first real photo of a black hole, which
Yeah,
was beautiful. And they say the movie was shockingly pretty accurate in its guess of what it would look
yeah.
like. Let's see. So, real equations on the board. The chalkboards filled with equations that Murphy and Professor Brand worked on contain real, complex physics, painstakingly detailed by Kip Thorne and his team. I have the black hole render took 100 hours per frame. Let's see what else. Minimal use of CGI. So, director Christopher Nolan is known for his preference for practical effects. The team built actual spacecraft sets and used real cornfields, which I love this next thing,
They
which they
sold it for a
plant.
profit.
Yes, they planted themselves and sold for a
Cornfields.
profit. I love that. It's
They,
pretty great.
I did read also that they made their own dust storm. So like they
Ah,
used fans. They used like healthy cellulose fibers and then massive fans to
mm.
generate like the dust or the fake dust bowl.
But when you say healthy, is it ever healthy to inhale
Probably
particulates?
not, but I think it just organic,
Organic
organic
goods.
dust.
It's like Mad Men where they were smoking clove cigarettes, and I'm
Right.
like, still smoking,
Still
still
smoking.
smoking.
Not 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Matthew McConaughey's casting was a pivot point. Nolan originally envisioned another actor, but pivoted to Matthew McConaughey after being impressed by his performance in Mud. The film became a key entry in McConaughey's reconnaissance era.
Yeah, I did read that.
Yeah. I
It's
didn't know he
funny.
had an out period. I didn't know. I saw Mud. It was a good movie. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's been a while. I liked when I was reading that trivia too about like the reconnaissance. I liked it because the thing they the thing they really focused on was how like the gravity. Like how serious he is in the moment. Like he's very intense. And
Very
it's
intense.
funny because I my initial thought of McConaughey is always all right, like
Yeah, yeah, in case you're
kind of like
confused.
loosey, yeah, kind of loosey goosey. But like in this movie, he's pretty serious.
Yeah, he doesn't crack a joke
He
much.
does
No.
not. I mean, he cracks jokes like with the robots and stuff like that. But like for the most part,
Well, it's a
he
serious movie. It's a
yeah,
serious.
it's
I think I was thinking about it, and it's like the entire movie is characterized by, if I had to like boil it down to one word, it's uncertainty. The
yeah.
earth is in uncertain peril. His children might not live to adulthood, or like, the world's dying. And then he gets on the spacecraft. He doesn't know if he'll ever come back. He doesn't know what he'll find. He is in the wormhole. Everything's uncertain, uncertain, uncertain. And even in the end, like, it's resolved, but he's like, now what am I gonna do with my time? My kid is about to die, so I've outlived my kid. Put a pin in the Casey Affleck in it for a second, but everything's uncertain, and so he plays that well. He plays that well. But yeah, so Casey Affleck, I remember thinking, I'm like, you never see him after that one cornfield confrontation where Jessica Chastain, the older version of Murphy, is like, hey, your children are suffocating to death, choking to death out here. They need to come home. And then, she also says, I solved it with dad. Everything's going to be okay. But, like, you never hear from him again. Like, Matthew McConaughey survives. She's
Yeah,
obviously he probably died, but like never mentioned again. Like he's the kid he didn't care about as much. I don't know. But like, and I was thinking about it and I
I
was,
don't.
oh,
I would disagree with that. I don't
hmm,
think he's the kid he didn't care about.
I'm joking, but I'm just saying the
Yeah.
movie didn't care about him as much.
Well, he. I mean, I think he's bitter. I think he's angry. I think he has reason to be bitter. Um, but like I think he's a tough character. He sort of has like the machismo, but he has sort of the like the mentality of someone who like works hard, works with their hands, and then it's a dangerous job. Someone's got to do it, but he's kind of he's moved on. He's moved on from that relationship, and he doesn't really view his role. And, like his role is to be a farmer and a provider. It's not to solve the global problems. It's not technology, and he's literally I feel like at that moment he's completely estranged,
Yeah.
from
One
Matthew
thing I was
McConaughey.
reading is the person in this like blog was talking about how they feel like the Casey Affleck or Tom character, he represents the past and tradition and roots and focusing on the tangible, the here and the now, and he doesn't want to think about possibility. Whereas Murphy, the character, she represents the future and possibility and like looking for new solutions. And like that's why they clash so much. But that's why the Murphy character aligns so much more with Matthew McConaughey because like that's why their narrative arc kind of follows the same trajectory because they work together as a team. Whereas the Tom character is, as you say, completely detached from that. Like, and he doesn't want to think about their dad. Like, he's just like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna farm. And, my kid died. He was buried in the back with the dog and mom. And that's where I'll be buried too. So yeah, he's not passionate about that. He's not interested. And like you said, he's estranged from the dad. I had to let you go. But still, it's weird to me. It is weird to me how he's just like he's not even mentioned in the final act of the movie at all. Like we don't know what happened to him. When did he die? Uh, and why is there so much hostility between Tom and Murphy? And I understand not all siblings get along and they're not always close. But even as kids, they didn't seem to like he didn't like I would think that he would have been more protective of her. Again, world's dying. We're in this together. Like, dad went off on a mission. At least we have grandpa. You would think there'd be a little bit more, I don't know, teamwork, a little bit more like, again, it's us against the world. But no, he goes the opposite way. He's a little harsh. He's a little hard on her, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, but also, I'd say, Tom ended up what, second in his class. He graduated second in his class, and they're like, "Yep, still a farmer," and like, Murphy, she probably graduated, one or two in her class, but like, she had opportunities he didn't. Like
So
no
he's
one
bitter,
ever.
like you said, he's bitter.
Well, I would say, like NASA never gave Tom a shot. I don't know if he would have taken him up on it, but like, like what did NASA do? They drove back the truck so he could have access to, like, I think he had a much narrower career path, and I'm sure at some point he's like, why is she getting all this education? She probably basically got the equivalent of like a PhD education at NASA while he's, just kind of muddling through, kind of a dusty existence.
Sure, sure. You mentioned that Michael Caine took her under his wing, but like as we find out, what wing is that? The big lie wing? Like I'm gonna string you along for 20 years and like on my deathbed, like I was lying,
Yeah.
I was lying. What wing is that? Like again, he's like, oh, she's really bright. I should really develop her. For what? For what? You have no intentions of saving the world.
I mean, I think if you're gonna look at it from the optimist perspective,
Mm,
you would say, hey, even though he didn't have hope, he still had hope in other people. And he
yeah.
saw a spark in her, and those are his words, as in the movie. And maybe he thought, she'd find a solution where he hadn't, and like I think he was resigned to the fact that he was never going to solve it. But I don't know if he was resigned to the fact that no one would ever solve it. And I think, she makes a comment at some point like, like, hey, like none of this equation doesn't work. It's redundant. It's nonsensical. You're kind of, it's like you're trying to you're the way you're trying to go about the problem that, and he's basically like, hey, I gave it my best shot. Ease off. At that point, he's in the wheelchair, and you know, but it's like, like that. There's something to be said too, where it's like sometimes, you move the rock up the hill, and even though you can't move the rock to the top of the hill, maybe the next person, as long as it doesn't roll down, they can kind of pick up the mantle. I mean, that's standing on the shoulders of giants. That's how progress works. Like everyone can't solve everything. Sometimes progress is incremental and you see things that other people don't. And in this case, I mean, she was really bright, but she was also kind of fed the answers
She
from
was fed the answers, and she gets all of the credit. Like no one even like,
right.
oh yeah, they mentioned like it's and obviously history is full of examples of that, of
Yeah.
some people getting credit and others who made huge contributions like getting completely written out of the story. So in a way that's believable. But yeah, it was definitely a two-person job. And I guess she got the credit because she was there. But like no one publicized that there was this other space launch that like gave the critical data.
Yeah. She says, like, on her deathbed, she says, I tried to tell them that it was you, but they didn't believe me. They didn't believe, and like you don't know if she's being 100% honest, or I mean it's possible too, like I mean, because let's say she says, hey, my dad, the ghost fed it through the wormhole or what, like I mean they'll probably be like, oh, she's being modest, like that's her way of saying, I'm being modest, like I can see
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm.
But at the same point, it's like, what if what if she actually did try to give him credit but no one believed her?
Well, I mean, couldn't you look at the watch doing the I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, this is again sort of similar to like the dust getting in the house. Like I want to know, like, how much data can
That's a
you
lot of
feed?
data. Yeah,
How
it's
much
not like
data
you're
can you?
transcribing a letter. Yeah.
Yeah, like how many pages of binary do you? Because it's like, okay, what, like, okay,
These are
dash
secrets
dot
of the
dot.
universe.
Yeah, like,
It's not a
like
menu.
I'm like, even if you get like, how can you decode, like, because I mean, I think most of us could decode like SOS,
Yeah.
danger, please
They
rescue, something
yeah.
like that. But it's like, oh, I don't even know how you say, here's the fundamental mathematical equations of the universe and
Yes.
how to communicate in 5 dimensions. Like, how do you
Yeah.
put that in Morse code?
Yeah, yeah. Well, think about, I think, I don't know if we watched this movie, but it was like something in the diving bell or something, but it's a guy who had like the locked in syndrome and he
Yeah,
like through blinking, he had his nurse help him write a whole like
yeah,
memoir. And I'm like, how long
yeah,
did that take? So is it like
yeah.
similar to that? I don't know.
Was it called The Butterfly in the Bell Jar or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah,
Have you seen it?
I have. It's depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, let's see. Spielberg was originally attached to the movie. Yeah, it was originally developed by him with Jonathan Nolan, Christopher's brother, writing the script. But Christopher Nolan eventually took over and reworked it into his own vision.
Yeah. I like
Okay.
it. It's
Yeah.
good. I think it's clever.
Yeah. And no green screens for the space scenes because Nolan wanted the actors to react to what they were seeing versus imagine what they were seeing.
That
So
makes
I
sense.
like that. I think I would prefer that as an actor, honestly.
One quick aside, I feel like the robots, like the on shuttle robots, were sort of like a little bit of a knockoff to like R2D2 and C3PO, but they just made them blocks. You know, they made them kind of
Yes.
like ridiculous rectangles. But I
Yes.
feel like they made sort of like the same sarcastic and dumb comments that we've come to expect
From
from
robots.
Star Wars, and I felt like there's a little bit of an homage
Sure,
there.
sure. And it actually reminded me of like artificial intelligence. Like, like, oh, take your sarcasm down to like
60,
70% or
60%.
60%. I was like, wow, that it feels like, vibe coding right
Yeah.
now. So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm like, well, it felt on the nose for like probably like how we'll be talking to
Oh,
computers and
for sure.
machines going
For
forward.
sure.
Yeah, it's not going to be on the space station. Like that's our near future. So,
One pet peeve I have with AI right now is you can totally tell which sources it's pulling from. And I'm like, I know the book or I know the source you're pulling from this information, but like, I know that source is biased or I know they're interested in getting a particular answer. So my trust in this answer, because like the way they're going through it or the way they're describing it, I'm like, well, that's the most optimistic, calculation. Or yeah, like that's possible, but I don't think that's the likely scenario. So it's
mhm.
just weird how, like you say, if you set your setting differently or you take
Yeah.
your sourcing differently, you get, wildly different answers. I think one thing I read this week was that they've hit a wall. AI has hit a little bit of a wall because so much of what they train AI on is the internet, and there's so much
Junk.
stupidity on the internet that like it's it was getting smarter for a while, and
Now
now
it's
it's
even
getting
dumber. It's dumber.
because like but like then how do you modulate it? Like it's like before it was like, oh, more information is good information, the power of the
Yes.
crowds. And now it's like, oh, but the crowds are sometimes dumb.
Yes. Oh, what was that Bradley Cooper movie? Came out right around the same time as this, where what was it called? Where he can be really smart. He takes a pill
Like
and
Limitless, something like
Limitless.
that.
Yes. And I remember reading a Roger Ebert review of that movie. And the premise is that suddenly he remembers every book he ever read, and like every ounce of knowledge he ever absorbed, like he has access to. And Roger Ebert's like, who's assuming this is all accurate? Like, what about all the stupid stuff that take into your brain? And so, like, that's AI. AI is literally limitless, and now it's spitting out garbage because it's eating garbage. So it's pretty
With
funny.
with the Limitless, I always wondered whether part of it was, whether it's sort of making like a hint or a conceit, it's sort of like antidepressants. Like, there's a
Mm,
lot of people that could be unlocked. Their potential could be unlocked, but they have, sort of like crippling, mental health issues. And then
mm-hmm.
by taking a pill, suddenly everything's smoother and suddenly they can focus and
I think
suddenly
that's
they're able.
Adderall, not
Yeah, yeah,
antidepressants.
yeah.
That's what all the kids in like Ivy Leagues and that's what they're doing. Like, I can't study. I don't. But suddenly you take speed for your frontal cortex and you're laser focused for the next 6 hours.
I know that was popular 10 or 15 years ago.
Are you
I don't
joking?
I have no idea. I'm kind of
What?
I'm a
There's like
nerd.
there's a
I
huge
I
Adderall shortage, and like it's nothing like last year it got in the news like crazy. I had to write some articles on it for work just cuz pharmaceutical
yeah,
shortages. But like yeah, all the parents were like they're driving hundreds of miles to get their kids drugs. And
I
but the
didn't
problem is
know.
so many adults, like millennials,
Right.
because they are having problems with screen time, and so everyone's attention levels are just that of a goldfish, and so no one feels like they can actually function anymore. And so the adults getting diagnosed with ADHD right now skyrocketing. I know a few people who are like, yep, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm like, were you? Like, I feel I'm just like, it's so sad that it's just everywhere.
I don't know. It's tough though because with some stuff, there's like maybe before enough people weren't getting diagnosed. Like
Yeah.
it's possible that a lot of people were missed, 30,
Mhm.
40 years ago when the condition was maybe underdiagnosed. But it's also possible now that some people are being overdiagnosed,
Yes.
or some people are being strategic in the sense that, oh, I have, these symptoms because they're hoping it gives them a competitive advantage. I think both things are possible.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a few articles from like well-known authors who are like, yeah, back in school when I needed, to get things done, I would have an Adderall hookup just because it helped me function better. It helped me
Yeah.
study more. And so it was more of a performance enhancing drug.
Yeah,
Um,
PEDs,
I think a lot of tech bros take it.
probably.
Uh, so
It doesn't surprise me. It's just I'm not familiar with the scene.
oh yeah, and they were it was like the Tickle Me Elmo parents,
Sure.
climbing over each other to get the prescriptions last year. Yeah, constant shortages. So,
Yeah,
especially, post pandemic, a lot of
probably.
supply chain issues. So,
Yeah.
there's some ripple effects associated with that. But I still think there are some shortages going on. Yeah. So they'll
It,
take the I know somebody, like a friend of a friend, so no one I know, but his girlfriend, she uses Adderall to like really focus at work, but then she has to sometimes take what's it called to go to sleep? Ambien? I'm like, "Oh no, uppers and but that's the way of the world. That's how high
no,
functioning
no,
people.
I believe it, but
Yeah.
I think that's what some of these famous people like Michael Jackson and Prince, and sometimes it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, I think and they talk about like the tech bros because they glamorize this lifestyle. Like I want to be performing like when I'm awake, I want to be performing at 110%, but then I need my sleep. So I have to come down and yeah, it's a little dicey. It's a little dicey,
Uh,
but high achievers, I think they find elements of it appealing.
Going back to the movie briefly, though, I mean, I think what's interesting is sometimes a lot of this is in vain. Like in the movie, obviously they're in this Dust Bowl era. It's bleak, and if the original map held, if they hadn't glimpsed the black hole, Earth would have died.
Mhm.
So like sort of all this, like you were talking about the glamorizing of the tech bro, like some of the achievement, is you don't necessarily know. You don't necessarily know whether you're right before a Great Depression, or you're right before a Civil War, or you're right before World War II, or what. Like sometimes you don't know that everything you've lived up to at this point might just not be that relevant. There
Mhm.
might be some freight train coming along. Maybe it's AI, or maybe it's something else where it's
Yeah.
like, look, studying in college might not matter as much anymore if everyone has all the answers all the time. Like,
Yes. Yeah, I
like,
read some articles and they were saying like the information economy is dead now with AI. Like information jobs are the first to go. So they said the first two bookkeeping because AI is so good at that. Like before you needed someone who knew bookkeeping practices, but now with AI all that can be automated. So people who went and got a bachelor's degree for just basic bookkeeping, low key accounting, they don't have the same employability. And then of course coding not doing well. So all right, I think you it said you were disconnected for a second. Did you notice that?
yeah, it sort of like you glitched and now you're fully
um
back. I don't
I'm
know
back.
what happened.
Hmm.
I apologize. I
That's all
didn't.
right. Yeah, sometimes Troy tells me like my audio gets unsynced and I'm like lovely, just mine. So yeah.
You're like a film. You're like a
Yeah.
dubbed film from like
Yeah.
the 1960s,
Yes.
where they say hello.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, well, can't you just do like a B roll and then like re-put the
Sure.
audio?
Uh, yeah, I know. I still don't know what to think of AI. I think AI is definitely going to reduce certain roles,
Makes me
but
very nervous. Makes me very
like
nervous.
it doesn't make me nervous. For me, I just don't know how to feel about it.
Oh.
I didn't, I wasn't worried about the internet, and I'm
Well,
glad I wasn't.
it was coming out when we were like in middle school.
Yeah,
What did we
but
have any we didn't have any conception of it, but like you can look at AI. I was talking to my in-laws about this, and I was again just automation in general, like digital. Like I don't like when I go to McDonald's, I have to order from a kiosk. Like, I don't like that. Or like ghost kitchens. Like, we went on a trip to Colorado Springs like a month ago, and it was clearly the bad, like, it was right by the park, but there were a lot of homeless people in this
Sure.
McDonald's. And so they had no visible staff.
Yeah.
Like, they had homeless people camping, like they were living in the McDonald's, they were hanging out in the McDonald's, and you
Yeah.
just go up and the food comes out of little slots.
A shoot. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and, like, there
I
was one like that in New York, and I'm like, "I don't like this. I don't
I
like this. This is
I
not the future I want."
I went into a digital Starbucks by accident.
Oh, I didn't
So
know.
so what happened was, like, I just see the Starbucks sign, right? And I'm like, oh, I'll go in, I'll get my drink.
Yeah.
And the so I go in there, I walk in, and there's no signage, like, all digital. There's nothing to indicate this is a different type of Starbucks.
Ghost
So I
kitchen.
walk in, and there's just one table with no people.
Yep.
And there's like 10 drinks on the table, and I like look around, and I'm like,
Yes.
what? And there's no menu. There's no
Yeah.
menu anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so like there's a table with some drinks. There's one door that kind of like. So what I do is I'm like, what's go like is there a hidden video? Like is there a
Yeah.
hidden camera? So like I like open the door. I'm like, hey, can I order like a drink from
A
can
person?
I order a Starbucks drink here at Starbucks? And they're like, this is an all digital Starbucks. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And they're
Yeah.
like, people order it. They don't order it in person. They order it on their phones or on
On
their
their
internet.
phones.
And then they come and pick it up. And I'm like, so I can't talk to anyone? They're like, what do you want? You can do it. So I'm like,
You're
so I don't have to go on my
inconveniencing me. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a payment kiosk out like I told them what I wanted, and then I went and did like but I'm like, this is so bizarre, and I haven't gone back since, and I do
Hate it.
not
I
want.
hate it. I hate it. Yeah, McDonald's really went like they leaned in really heavily to that. There's this one by our house, and they rolled it out like a year ago. And they used to have like the you walk over to the register, but they just put up these cardboard things to cover it.
Right,
Like, no,
right,
no, no,
right.
don't think you can
Yeah.
come over here and talk to
Like the
people.
Wizard of Oz, like they
Yes,
put
yes,
like
the
some
curtain's up now.
curtains.
And all the new ones, like the one we went to in New York, literally just had a ghost kitchen. Like no, it like none of the vestigial elements of like
Right.
human to human contact. But yeah, but in the one in Colorado, they clearly redid it, so there's just a little food slot, but
Yeah.
no human interaction. I hate it. I hate it.
I
I
don't
hate it.
like it. I don't
Yeah,
like it at all.
yeah. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's not very disability help. Like, what if you're blind, right?
Right.
Or, handicapped. Also sometimes I have special orders and I don't want to click you're making me do the work. That they just
Yeah.
don't want to spend the money on human beings.
The thing I hate about the kiosks is they like you say if it takes you
Forever.
if it takes you 1 minute to order with a human being, it takes you 3 to 4 minutes to because like there's
Yes.
all these like how many
Yes.
ketchup packets do you want? Do you want to
Yes.
hear about our Monday specials? No.
Yes.
What's your subscriber number? I don't have one. Like
Yes.
what's are you sure you don't want to hear about our specials? No, still no. And it's like, oh my,
Yes.
like there's just no, and then like
No
you
end.
can't. You have to like click. Oh, I want no mustard. I want
Yes.
like it's
Yes.
so many choices, and like
Yes.
it's terrible. And you're like, and then if you do something wrong, to like
Yes.
go back and like you can't just say, oh yeah, with the hamburger, hold the onions. You can't
Yes.
say that. You have to go through like
100%.
five
Yeah.
screens.
God forbid if you're ordering for more than one or two people.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel that way about Walmart. Like Walmart got rid of all of their cashiers
yeah,
clearly after the pandemic, and so like they're like, oh, so I'm not getting a discount even though I'm providing the labor of the checkout. I remember I had this like I couldn't. I wanted the touch thing with my credit card, like the I don't know the RFID, and it wasn't working, and I needed help because I needed to take some. It scanned it twice, and there was the lone employee that walked past me. I was like, "Can you help me?" And she looked at me. She's like, "No." Just kept on walking. And I
yeah,
was like, "This service is dead."
yeah.
Yeah.
And God forbid, like the printout or something. If there's something wrong with the interface, you just have to walk away from the restaurant.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
your sale is gone.
Gone. I
Because
don't
it's
care.
like like I remember one time it just locked up on me, like it froze, like the screen of death, and there wasn't another kiosk. There was just
Yeah.
one. I'm like, I guess I'm not eating here. I guess I gotta go home.
One thing, McDonald's is trying so hard to push the app. Like, if you ever go through the drive-through, they're like, "Did you want to order on the app today?" It's like, "No, dummy, I'm in the drive.
Right,
Why would
right.
I want? If I wanted to order
Yeah,
on the app, I would have gone to the app
I
lane."
have free will.
Yeah,
That's why I'm here.
yeah. No, I don't want to order on the app. But yeah, I'm gonna be a holdout on that. I don't want ghost
It's
kitchens.
so
I don't like it.
terrible.
Don't like it. But
It's
I was talking to Troy. We can pause. I think we're done with our movie. Hold on. Let's finish. What would you give the Interstellar movie? 1 to 10.
I like an 8.5.
Wow.
I feel like
Wow.
it's great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it. I like that it's deep. I like that there's struggle. I like that they have a successful outcome at the end, and the planet, people find a way off. I don't know. Like I like that it's not. I like that it's not cliche. I feel like there's
True.
maybe like 5 or 6 standard Hollywood formulas. I like that it doesn't fit neatly and it's not entirely formulaic.
That's true. I do appreciate that. I give it a 7. I don't know why, but this movie doesn't like resonate with me. And like I watched it and I was like, it was good. And then I like never thought about it again. And yet like the lame B- movies from the 80s and the 90s, I have those seared into my memory. And
Yeah.
I actually think about them more. Like they're richer to me for some reason. I don't know why. But
No, that's okay. I mean, I think it also depends on why you're watching the movie. I
mm.
I don't think this is a movie you watch to be entertained. I
Yes.
think I think you watch this movie to be challenged or to sort of have your horizons broadened.
Sure.
Like I think it asks tough questions that you chew on, but like this is a thinking movie. This
Mhm.
isn't Yeah, I guess at the end it's a little bit of a feel good movie, but it's a lot of work. This is like the equivalent of like, it's like, oh, some movies are like a bag of Fritos. This movie is like running a 10K. You
Sure.
you feel like you're kind of going through it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I wouldn't say like I have to be happily entertained by every movie, but it's more like it's very, I don't know, it's just kind of flat to me in some ways. But I do appreciate that it doesn't fit into a box. Oddly, I just didn't feel like any of the characters had a lot of depth. There wasn't a lot of depth to the characters.
I
Oddly, the
mean,
most depth was probably Matt Damon. He was the most interesting.
yeah,
So
and what I would say there is, I feel like a lot of movies, maybe they focus on one or two characters for the whole film. But this one, I feel like with it almost like takes turns. Like it focuses on one character for 5 minutes and another character for 10 minutes. So other than maybe a little bit Matthew McConaughey, you don't really feel like I mean, you don't ever know what Murph's personal life is. At the end of the movie, apparently she's had
tons of
generations
children.
of tons of children, but
Yeah,
like she kisses that one guy. Is he the love interest, or did he
we
just?
don't know.
We
We
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
Yeah.
Like Casey Affleck. We meet his wife like once or twice, maybe. We met one of the kids once or twice, maybe. Like there's just
Mhm.
there's not, other than Matt Damon. There's Sorry, not
Not a
Matt
lot of
Damon.
yeah, not a
Other
lot of
than
character
McConaughey.
development.
Yeah.
Not a well, yeah, there isn't a lot of character development. And one thing that again, like Matthew McConaughey goes up there in a blink of an eye. Like he's not tortured over it. I feel like there should be a little bit more torture, but he's
Yeah.
like
But I feel like one of the goals of the movie is to sort of establish a feeling of solitude,
mm,
in the sense that like if you're on a ship, whether it's 1,000 years ago on an actual ship, like a ship on an ocean, or whether you're stuck in space, a lot of it's dead time. A lot of it's alone time. A lot of it's sort of like you're stuck in your own thoughts. I feel like as a viewer, you're watching the movie, you also have that feeling. You feel like a little bit like you're in a spaceship. You
I
know,
also feel it feels. like, I think another thing is the reason there's no depth is it's to point out that time is fleeting.
Yeah.
Like, again, 100 years goes by in a second. Like, on this planet, it is a second. Like, it is what you make it. And there is time, like, when you're there, there's depth. But when you go and do something else, it's gone in the blink of an eye. So there was no time for him to really get to know his children after he left. And so why should we how can we as an audience get to know them if he's not there either?
Yeah.
So i think
Totally.
i, I think that absence is deliberate, or like that blind spot into their the details of their lives and how they lived it.
I
All
agree.
right, I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.
Okay.